What's up, everybody? Welcome. My name is Chris, aka RoboPacker92, and you're watching This is the Waypoint, the one and only Star Wars discussion show right here on the Shared Screens Podcast Network. Today, joining us again, just like last week, a special guest, Aaron Roots 427.
Back at it like a bad habit, baby. Let's go.
Hey. Is 427 your God-given last name?
It's actually my operation number.
Tattooed like a behind your ear, like yeah.
Right. Well, it's
absolutely
lower back
with a barcode.
Yeah, lower back.
I was gonna say across the chest.
Just tramp stamp, just a barcode right above your ass.
They put you on a conveyor belt, and it's just, and then you keep going.
Makes sense.
Hurts a lot.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's is it like the factory from Attack of the Clones, right?
Where I was literally
exactly
that.
Yeah, it's not a tattoo; it's a brand. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that big thing, like right when Anakin gets his arm stuck in and his lightsaber breaks. It's like, your master's gonna kill me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was actually just part of the documentary they were filming about where you're from. You know, bad work habits and all that. Anyway,
absolutely.
Joining us as always, our ever-present guy in the chair, Alec Bobko.
Yellow.
And before we jump right into it, if you haven't already, press that motherfucking subscribe button. Or I shouldn't. Oh, there goes our monetization. Press that gosh darn subscribe button right there down in the bottom.
Already,
hit that bell. Yeah, no, for all three of you that have seen this. Hit that bell. Make sure you know that we're releasing other stuff because we got a House of the Dragon review show. We're talking about She-Hulk. We sometimes talk about video games. It's all down there. Make sure you're checking that out and hitting the floor. But none of that matters right now because today a brand new episode of Andor just released. And I really like this episode, man. This was a good one for me. I am all about that character dilution. Just get inside, get underneath, and learn about people kind of Star Wars. That real slow burn, build up kind of Star Wars. And man, no action, but a meaty episode. And I'm so here for this. Real Ocean's 11 vibes. You know, getting ready for the heist, right? We're getting ready to go steal some shit, but also there's character progression. On top of that, we're learning more about Vel's crew and the people that Luthen hired for this rebellion. We got the political intrigue with Mon Mothma and her weird QAnon husband. Like, it's just, woo!
And the daughter too.
Mm-hmm.
A daughter
who's real mouthy for some reason.
Shit, that's a fucking teenager right there, man.
True.
True. Like, damn.
That is
a
just
teenager-ass teenager.
That is
right. Yeah, exactly.
Not even a Star Wars teenager, just a teenager.
Yeah, just a teen.
Yeah, teenagers are universal, whether you're here or in Star Wars. They're all just snotty and...
On set, she's like, what's my motivation? They're like, oh, she pretends she's your actual
16.
mom. She's like, oh, got it. Yeah, great.
You're 16.
I hate you, Mom.
Slams the door shut. You just hear loud music like coming through. Like, fine. Yeah. She won't stop listening to Figure and Dan and the Modal Nodes. Is she okay?
Hell yeah, brother. It's just the loud like Mongolian rock from Fallen Order just being cranked as loud as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck that shit was so good too. Just give me more Star Wars rock and roll.
Yeah, baby.
I want to hear more music within the universe of Star Wars. I'm all about that shit. But before we get too far into today's episode, I was not here last week and wanted to give just some minor highlights of my own thoughts and feelings. First, I loved it. I thought it was great. I really liked just getting to see more of Luthen, who we didn't see a lot of this week. This felt like a real cool look into who he is and what he does. Learning that he's got like this really cool like antique store that he and his assistant are essentially like trying to kickstart the rebellion with Mon Mothma in. Is really neat. He's orchestrating the whole heist with Vel and all that because there's something has happened to him in his life that has made him so pissed at the Empire that the thing that he does as a job on Coruscant is the facade, right? It's that cool like sort of Batman thing going on to where it's like you got your Bruce Wayne and your Batman, and dude lives in the Batman, right? And so I just think he's fascinating. The cool little hand wave that he does was some of the best like character acting I think we've ever seen in Star Wars before. That whole shot where you just see the inside of the ship and he's putting his wig on and stuff.
The smile.
So good.
Yeah,
Gosh,
and it's very like kind of like the mob, like the mafia. You know how like they'll have like a restaurant or like a flower shop that they'll be operating out of, and then in the back room they're doing some shady shit.
Absolutely,
it's pretty cool to see.
You got, of course, the Indiana Jones whip and carbonite up in there, right? He's got the Star Killer armor and like all this stuff. Cool little Easter eggs for people to find. I love that. You know, that the Lucasfilm story team just saw an opportunity and we're like, all right, we're gonna put some shit in here.
Yeah. They walked into the storage room and they were just like, I want that and that and that.
Matter of fact, they actually filmed that in the Lucasfilm archives. Like, it's
that's
just
what it looks like. That'd be so cool.
You just ride up in Mon Mothma's like sweet fucking like hot rod, right? And you're just what a cool car. I love Coruscant. I love the way that Coruscant looks. Like we see all the shots of Cyril Karn like walking back to his mom's place, and just like how Coruscant is under the reign of the Empire, just kind of been drained of all of its color. It's got this real like brutalist style of architecture to it. It's all white and gray, and it's really, really rad, and a cool way to show something familiar that has changed and really kind of show us without telling us like what the Empire is doing here and how they are. I love getting to see the inside of the ISB meeting. I thought that was really, really cool. I love that Tarkin wannabe that was in there.
Yeah.
The inner politics between Deidre and the other dude, whose name I didn't catch, was really, really cool, and her like starting to realize like, oh shit, like that this has got something to do with the guy that stole my shit, and her starting like piece the puzzle together. And some of the other notes I had on last week's episode are really, really relevant to this week's, so we'll move on. But I really liked last week's, and I'm so impressed with the quality of the show so far. It's been all hitters for me. But I want to get your general thoughts and feelings on how you felt about Andor episode 5. Aaron, take it away, baby. How'd you feel about this week's episode?
So this week's episode I had a lot of fun with. I think this is the first episode so far where a lot of the dialogue kind of just hasn't gone in one of my ears and out the other. Not that it's like badly written or anything, but it's just like,
there was something
this
about
guy
like
does
the
this
dialogue
and
in
that's
this
why,
one.
and okay, great. Yeah, because like, you know, you got to know these characters better and they have reasons for what they're doing. And, you know, they're learning and teaching each other like what to do when they finally break in and steal this train car, I guess. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, it still very slow burn, which I think this show is going to be really great to binge once it's finished. Week to week, it's kind of killing me because I'm like, but they didn't steal anything. When are they going to steal the thing? And it, you know, it's great. I like it a lot so far. But this episode was a lot of fun.
I think Anthony Carboni put it really, really well on Kind of Funny's spoiler talk, right? To where he says like really often the show leaves you in an emotional place and not really a story place. Plot didn't move much here, but we learned a lot about the characters and their motivations, and I really like that. It's got me wondering if the show, and maybe they said something before and I missed it, whether it's going to have like this like 3 episode arc that's like connected throughout, but sort of like every 3 episodes is kind of its own thing at the same time. I'm really interested to see how that moves forward. I wouldn't hate that. It might feel a little predictable, but I don't hate it. But yeah, Alec, how'd you feel about this episode, man?
I really like this episode. Just building up everybody's characters a bit more, learning about the team. I say those of you who listened to last week's episode know that we were kind of predicting that this is going to be the one where at least they start kicking off the heist, but they kind of blue balled us a bit.
There was no heisting to be found.
Yeah, they got to the point where they're like, all right, guys, and let's start now, and then credits.
Basically, yeah. Like
heist is a go. Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Exactly, yeah. So like literally the last shot is just Luthen like, well, this time tomorrow we'll know what happened.
So good. So good.
But just learning about all the crew that's pulling off this heist was really cool. Like I selected seeing the backgrounds to, I don't remember any of the characters' names, but like Skern, I think was one of them.
I should have written
Skeen,
them down.
Skeen, I think.
Skeen. Yeah, Arvel Skeen. Yeah, cousin from the bear.
Yeah. like he had all the tattoos and all that, and then the young kid that's like the really for the rebellion and like his like tech, but he has the manifesto and all that. I just thought it was really cool, like, and getting to see the lieutenant, Gorn, getting to see like his side of things, and like I don't know, not to get like too into the weeds a bit, but one of the quotes that I just really loved was when him and the other Imperial were up on top of the dam, and they're just like, "Oh, you really think there's gonna be that many coming tomorrow for this or to see the eye?" And he's like, "Oh, there used to be thousands coming to this. Now there'll probably only be a couple hundred or 100 or something like that." Like, I don't know, it's just one of those moments that's like you didn't really expect to impact, but it was just like kind of interesting to see that effect that the Empire has over.
I also love that moment too, and I'll go to my general thoughts in a moment. But like that conversation, using that as a way to kind of like lead towards learning more about Gorn's motivations as well, right? To where like the dude's like still enough of the Aldanians to smell them, and you can see Gorn kind of take offense with that. And you learn later that Gorn fell in love with an Aldanian, and I assume because of his Imperial ties, like she left, and then like Empire fucked everything up, and now he's like, I'm burning this place to the ground. Then. Which is really, really cool. And that's something that Andor's been doing, like the show's been doing a lot throughout. I think like last week we get that scene with Luthen giving Cassian the Kyber crystal, and we didn't really know what Luthen's deal was before that. But I mean, this thing is like Old Republic era, right? He mentions Rakatan invaders, who the Rakatans are mentioned back in the Old Republic. Specifically Knights of the Old Republic, and in Knights of the Old Republic, they're mentioned as like this ancient race before them that had their own empire thousands of years before Revan was even around, right? And so that thing is ancient, and here's this dude who just has this. Here you go, yeah, this was a Rakatan thing. It's worth a lot of money. And then later finding out he's got like this sweet antique shop that's got like holocrons and stuff in it. That's really, really fascinating and just a cool way that they've been doing a great job of. I think it just speaks to the excellent writing of the show, right? And how you get these little bits and flavors to where it's like, if you're somebody that's in the know of Star Wars, you can pick up on these little things beforehand, but then later, of course, it still reveals it to people that might not be like us and like pick up on things like that.
Everybody's fighting their own rebellion line.
What a fucking line, dude. Oh man. Oh, I love that one. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that line for sure. As far as my own thoughts, I thought it was great. I love this episode. I'm all about this slow burn stuff. I think it's really, really great, and I'm too excited to give any more general details. So I think let's just jump into this, man. I've got a lot of notes that I really, really want to go over, and so we'll start at the beginning of the episode, right? Weird, just skinny, puny, fucking weaselly little Cyril Karn at home eating his Cocoa Puffs with
Star Wars
Mom,
cereal,
man.
baby. Which I found out. Shout out to the Dano channel on YouTube. Does a Andor watch along every Tuesday night. He discovered during the episode that is actually Trix Swirl's cereal, but they only took the blue and purple ones out and put them in the bowl. And I thought that was very cool. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Dano's so good, man.
Oh, he's great.
Dano's so good. Which, by the way, if you're not familiar with Dano's content, please check him out. He's one of the best Star Wars content creators out there, I think.
Absolutely.
That's so funny. Yeah, I straight up thought they were Cocoa Puffs, and I was just laughing. I was like, oh my god, they got fucking Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, I was like, he's eating his blue Cocoa Puffs with blue milk.
With blue milk, baby.
That being said, make Star Wars cereal. I want Star Wars cereal.
Yeah, give me that. I guess I'm gonna have to go buy some fucking Trick Swirls and take out all of the other ones and make some goddamn Star Wars cereal, right? Like that's so funny. Yeah. That's literally the first note I have for today is Space Cocoa Puffs.
Same. I wrote Star Wars cereal with blue milk.
Oh man, that's so good. Which somebody that's had the blue milk, tasty. Would not put cereal in it. It's not that kind of blue milk. You know, it's not milk, but maybe it is in universe. I don't know. Whatever. But I really love that scene though, because now we're starting to get an idea of who Cyril's mother is and the kind of environment that he grew up in. Who's got that real like Mother Gothel from Tangled kind of thing, right? Like controlling and emotionally manipulative.
I have a note about Karn's mom. She looks and sounds like the witch woman from Spirited Away.
She does!
She sounds like exactly like her, and I would not be surprised if they're the same person.
She
I'm gonna look up who she
does,
is.
man. Yeah, and so I think that's again just another way of showing like why Cyril is the way that he is, like with that super like clearly like emotionally manipulative and high expectation, like crazy high expectation mother, like dude goes for perfectionism at all times, right, and tries his absolute hardest. So he's out here, he's modifying his suit to look more like the soldiers. He's going out and doing these things. He's getting in above his head because he doesn't know what he's doing, and then he crashes at home and fails, and mom's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? How could I have raised such a fucking loser? I'm gonna go
Look at you, you're
call
slouching.
Uncle Harlow, who
Calling the
fuck
family
is Uncle
favor.
Harlow? Why does that sound like a weird
that's
mob
not
thing?
sketchy at all. I was literally just
Yeah. There's something there. Like something's there. I wonder if he's like an Imperial contact or something.
That's kind of what we were talking about last week. Is just like Cyril's got to end up in the Empire at some point.
I always got the vibe from him that he makes me think that maybe he tried to be like an Imperial officer or something, or join the ISB and like washed out, or didn't, or just wasn't good enough to make it, and so he ends up at the Pelmar Security Corporation, right? Like like he's like not good enough to be a stormtrooper kind of deal. But I mean, it could very well be wrong about that. Or yeah, Uncle Harlow's like some weird, like shady Coruscanti level 1313 something's going on. I don't know. That's interesting. I'm sure we'll find out more. But getting some weird like incel-y vibes from him, like sitting there crying in Mama's house, looking at the Cassian ruined my life, like looking at him and like technically you did that to yourself, but.
Yeah, he's looking at the hologram later. The Wrath of Karn is coming, everybody. It's coming.
The Wrath of Karn.
Karn!
Karn! I'm gonna write that down. Karn, bro. But I love the whole thing. Anytime that we get like a window into, I don't want this to sound mean, but just like sort of like the regular people of Star Wars, I relish that, right? I love seeing what people's day-to-day looks like in a universe that's so fantastical like this, which is why I loved all the stuff on Ferrix. There's so many of these like blue collar dudes just going to their jobs. You got that sweet wall of gloves and stuff, right?
So cool.
So cool. And so yeah, like them just showing us so well that like Cyril like going down into like clearly into like the mid-level of Coruscant to go see his mom, and it's like sort of middle class almost, right? Just I think is so cool, and a really cool way of kind of giving us this like atmospheric storytelling. I thought it was interesting that Cyril Karn also appears to have a figure of like a clone trooper in his room as well. I couldn't tell if it was Storm or clone. It's hard to say. He might be old enough to have a clone if he's about the same age as.
It would have to be clones, right? Because clones are still being used, like the trooper armor and stuff. Didn't we see that in advertisements and stuff like that?
So maybe the thing is we don't really know because we haven't seen stormtroopers yet either, which I think is really, really interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume no. Like if we look at sort of the timeline of things, because Bad Batch starts pretty much immediately after like Order 66, right? And they're already like on the switch to Storm at that point. Like within the first season of Bad Batch, the clone troopers are slowly being phased out. Like they're left as like commandos to come in and train stormtroopers and stuff, but they're already like starting to be watched out, and this is about 10 years after Bad Batch, I want to say 5 BBY. Yeah, is about 10 years or so after Bad Batch. So I'm going to assume we're at full stormtrooper at this point. I think if we're seeing clone troopers, maybe like some kind of like flashback is going to be my guess. But it's interesting because in the ads that we've seen, it looks like the clones are on Ferrix. Which, although I mean, we do know that that Andor has been in this fight since I was 6 years old, and I know that just means that he's kind of like sort of been involved in like these small rebellions throughout. But I do think that there are some like Republic /CIS ties there somewhere. So it's It's interesting. I don't know yet. So it could very well be a stormtrooper figure because I don't think like at this point like the Empire is going to be advertising things about the clones, right? I think they're kind of pushing that back at this point. So I don't know. It's interesting though. There's something related to that, and I think that could say something about more about who Cyril is and like what it is that he wants. Because he clearly hates his mother, but also like is still trying to rise to the occasion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting. How do you guys feel about Cyril so far?
I think that he's bubbling up to be something bigger of an antagonist. At least I hope so, because I do like his character. I liked him when he was with that like private security team, and you know that him like constantly looking at that hologram of Andor, he's gonna do something about it, whether it be by himself or by potentially joining the Empire. So I'm excited to see where it's gonna go with him.
Al?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything Aaron had just said. We made the joke with Brett and John Walker, liking Steel Karn, but
it's such a Brett-ass character, dude.
100%.
It's a Brett character.
100%.
The way he was looking at that hologram is like he's gonna do something on his own. Like just like
it almost
Walker
reminded me of that really, really excellent cold open in season 2 of The Boys, right? Of that dude who's sitting there watching like Vought news like every morning, taking that in all the time, and then that goes and shoots a super, just because he's a super. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison, but it gave me the vibe of him like almost like radicalizing like against the dude who fucked up my job, you know? That's really interesting, and so I don't know like what direction he could. There, but excited to see where it goes because I think that actor is really, really amazing. The dude's performance is incredible.
And the way that he can like convey such like inner like pain that he has without even saying anything. Like he's just sitting there and just literally just like staring at a wall. But you're like, this guy is messed up in the head, and if he's not careful, he's gonna hurt somebody and probably himself.
It would be cool to see almost like the sort of like opposite end of the rebellion, right? Like you have this group of people who are desperate. They're out here to strike back. Like they've been drinking goat's milk for months and living in huts and they're like, we've got to make this work. This has to work. Like that sort of like desperation. I think would be cool to almost feels like it could be like a coin flip of that, right? To where he's like, I'm gonna go fuck up Cassian if it's the last thing I do, sort of deal. Whether I almost don't want him to join the Empire. I'd love to see how he goes about doing that, like on his own or something, or what that looks like. Yeah,
like a middle ground. He's like, I don't care about anyone else. I'm just getting my job done.
I'm going rogue.
Yeah.
So I really like that. Hey, Rogue Point 5. I think it's before Rogue.
True. Right.
I want to move on to Vel and her team of rebels that have been put together by Luthen that are kind of living in the mountains of Scotland, or excuse me, Aldhani, with their sweet space go pink milk. Which is another note that I have is how many colors of milk are there in Star Wars?
Dude, literally. Right? Like even in this one, they mentioned like a new kind of milk. I'm like, how many kinds of milk is there? But I guess it would be like an infinite.
Color. I want every color of milk at this point to show up to where like the moment we get a new Star Wars product, they're like, here, you tried this. This is orange milk.
Well, we were just talking last week, wasn't it Josh that brought up what color that milk that the ghosts have?
Yeah,
we did ask.
And we said purple. Yeah,
yes.
You guys did say purple. So you're close.
Yeah,
you're close. It's got like that, like lavender, pinkish kind of hue to it, and it's I'm pouring that. I was like, fucking, of course.
There's more milk.
Yeah.
Of course, more milk, bro. I love it. But I love that first scene with Arvel skiing. He's got to show off. He's like
his cool space tattoos, dude.
I love space tattoos.
They're cool.
He's like rifling through Andor's stuff. He's like, I don't trust you, man. I got to know what your deal is. And Cassian comes out and sees the tattoos, and I love that moment of Arvel being like, you know what these mean. And he says, yeah, crate head by the hand. Which Cratehead, I searched for a little while. I was not able to find anything like definitive on what either of those tattoos mean. I have found some interesting things to each other because they mentioned what they actually mean is kind of besides the point, because Arville goes on to be like, yeah, they really did build a lot of cages to tell you that they were both prisoners of the Empire at some point. Andor talks about being held on Skippo and like what it was like to be a prisoner there for a bit. But the primary thing that I've seen is Cratehead being Krayt, as in like Krayt dragons from Tatooine. Potentially like maybe it was a Tusken slave or had some sort of relation to Tatooine. By the Hand could also be related to Thrawn's ship is called the Hand. So I mean, maybe there's some kind of relation there, but there's definitely something like they've both been on the receiving end of the Empire by something, and I just loved that moment. It was almost like of a veteran kind of like talking about like their years in service together, and it's a conversation I've heard a lot of times, like growing up in a military family of being like, oh, you're stationed here, I'm stationed here. That's so all of that sort of thing. Except theirs is much worse.
Yeah.
But I really love that moment. And he's such a fascinating character. I love that actor. I loved him in The Bear. I love him here.
And was he the one who had the super cool line that's like the axe forgets, but the tree remembers? It's time to do the chopping.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah, that was that scene. To where like they're talking about the tattoos and Cassian mentions where he was in. And he goes, "Yeah, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers."
Yeah, that's also the same scene now. Okay, so I think I caught something. And I don't know like how true potentially it is, but I think they hinted that Vel was gay. Because he's like, well, if you're worried about her, she's already sharing a blanket with somebody. And when it showed her, she was walking out of the same hut with the woman who healed Cassian's arm. And then later, when they had like when Cassian like confesses and is like, I'm here just because I'm getting paid, blah, blah, blah. Everyone looks at that other girl who fixed Cassian's arm and she's like, Vel didn't tell me.
Didn't tell me either, yeah.
So, I mean, maybe not, but it's cool.
There's also, I think, a little more credence to that, to where I have one note here that just says, damn, Cassian kind of horny. Because he's like hitting on the chick that healed him a bit. And yeah, Vel
You're
comes
a
over.
Healer.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. He's like putting his shirt back on, what's up? And she's like, go away. And she looks at Captain.
Dress yourself,
like,
bro.
Yeah, you can get dressed yourself, you fucking weirdo.
You pervert.
Stop sniffing.
Stay away from my woman.
Which again was a great little scene, though. I love that.
For sure.
It's a fantastic way to give us like those little things like that. Of course, after the tattoo scene, we move on to see Mon Mothma in her home getting chewed out by her snot ass fucking punk ass teenager.
In that scene, I refer to her as Mom Mothma.
Mommy Mothma. Because she's a mom. No, I get it. I'm here. I went a completely different direction. Anyway.
Mouthy ass kid.
Yeah.
Sorry, audio listeners. I did a little shrug there. She's hot, is what I'm going for. I really like Mothma's really cool.
Yes.
And there's really only two scenes with Mon Mothma, so I'm gonna charge into the second one too. But the scene of her back in her sweet fucking space caddy.
Oh, so sick.
God,
her
so
husband,
cool.
whose name I can never remember, who I refer to as Man Mothma. My dude's got the drip. My dude's got some sick clothes. Dude.
Hair.
Looks awesome.
One of my favorite scenes, though, too, from last week was like her coming home and finding out that all these like horrible people are going to come to dinner because they're fun. He likes to party with the worst people on the planet, and she's like, they just cut off supplies to this planet, which by the way is related to like her like eventually just like outright becoming a rebel at one point. It's mentioned in Rebels that she has like this huge speech on the same planet that Sal cut off supplies for it. Cool little just trail like seeing the start that leads to that. But
and they said there'd be no Easter eggs.
Right.
I just that like Luke Skywalker's not showing up kind of Easter eggs.
Well, I mean,
Right.
you know, the best kind of fan service stuff is not like I said this last week.
Throwing
The best
it
kind of fan service stuff is not the in your face stuff like in Force Awakens when Finn pulls the training remote out and it's literally like, look at this, look at how cool this is. It's like, oh, whoa, cool. There's holocrons in the background of this scene. Or
No,
whoa, they
they're
mentioned this,
literally-
which means this.
They're
Yeah,
literally Easter eggs. If you know to look for them, they're there, right?
They're in-world, yeah.
These little things. And the thing is like all of the Easter eggs within this also make sense within the context that they're there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
Oh, for sure.
we talked about this on our Rogue One rewatch review recap, where you know Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba showing up on Jeddah makes no fucking sense because like 20 minutes later they got to be on Tatooine,
Right.
or even having R2 and 3PO in the Rebel base as they're watching the ships leave, and I'm like, they're supposed to be on that ship because we find out that ship there is the one that they're on at the beginning of A New Hope. Why are they on the foot? They're there so that way we can have a scene with R2 and 3PO, and I love the scene for what it is. I love seeing Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba, but like, whatever. Yeah. You know, I think that when they said no Easter eggs, stuff like that. It's like Mon Mothma being there is, of course, I mean, that's technically a huge like thing, right? But I mean, it makes sense within the context that she's there
character in the show.
Yeah. It's obviously she would be there, and so everything all kind of makes sense for what it is, and I really really love the way that they've been doing that. But the scene where they're in the space Cadillac and he's still just that bit where he's got like this weird like trophy husband, like I'm a stay-at-home guy who lives off of what my wife does, and I just like to party and do all these things, and I don't care about the politics of anything because it doesn't affect me, right?
Yeah.
He's got just this horrible, weird, just awful kind of vibe to him, and that bit where he's starting to get a little sneaky and being like, you didn't mention this thing to me, and she's like, well, I didn't think you'd be interested in it. It's charity.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, damn.
Yeah. The dude's a crappy politician without actually being a politician.
Yeah. It's like clear. I think just from the way that he talks about things, it's clear that he's not a politician. He's just Mon Mothma's husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which the kind of mentioned. I think there's Tony Gilroy has mentioned the idea that Chandlerland weddings are sometimes like set up, right?
Mm.
Maybe that's an old expanded universe thing that I'm thinking of, but that concept is definitely out there. I don't think it's a very loving marriage at any given rate, but just that thing that we see last week and then see more of here within this episode 2 is the idea that when Mon Mothma is talking to Luthen, she's like, I feel under siege. I go to the bank and there's different people. They hire drivers for me, and then she goes home. Husband's like, hey, I'm inviting all of these Imperial senators to come party, and it's like, fuck, her home's not safe. Like, she can't go anywhere without this. Well, and they're in the car, and he's still like shaking her down.
Well, speaking of the driver, real quick, was this a different driver than the one last week? It seemed like he looked.
I don't know. Did we get his name last week?
We didn't get a name, but we saw him.
We saw his face. I didn't really pay attention to the driver.
I'll
this
have to go
episode.
look again.
I think
I'll have to go look again because it's if a different driver, that's a fucking incredible touch. And also, fuck, dude, what would it be a different driver? Because Mon Mothma knows his name,
right? But I mean, she probably gets the driver's name all the time.
Yeah, man. Maybe like, hey, this is your driver today or something,
right?
Which again was just another great way of kind of showing the sort of like callousness of her husband, right? Where he's like, what's his name again?
Yeah.
Who's this guy? And Mon Mothma's like, dude, he works for you.
Yeah, literally.
Come on. Just give me the baseline humanity at least. But I love to hate this dude. And that's another incredible performance right here, especially because like it's such a believable character. There's so many. It's like, despite it's in space and there's blasters and lightsabers, but all of these characters are like, we've seen these people before, and I really really dig that.
Yeah.
I lost my spot on my notes here so far. Okay, this is one that I've been really really excited to talk about. Okay, the sound of TIE fighters will never ever get old.
Dude, this is the most.
They cranked it to 11.
Yeah, this is the most scared I've probably ever been of a TIE
God
fighter.
damn, that's one of the coolest fucking scenes I've ever seen.
Flies away, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we're safe.
And just flies like right by him, which I imagine is just some guy like talking to one of his homies on the radio, and he's like, "Hey, watch this." Yeah. And then they go. They're just like he's just like got a GoPro and he's live streaming. He's like fucking. It's like when people film themselves like driving into a puddle and getting people wet.
Oh yeah.
He's calling up his homies like, "Yo, check out my Dash Cam. Like pull up my stream real fast."
Pull it up, it's hilarious.
This is gonna be awesome.
I'm gonna mess with these farmers real quick.
There's some fucking rednecks down here. Check this shit out. This is gonna be awesome. I love that too because this is again like something that exists within other Star Wars media that is represented here so well. Though again, I know I'm so sick of there's no Easter eggs already, but this is another cool way of referencing things that are in other Star Wars media, to where the idea that the Empire is really about like looks and intimidation and really through fear and that stuff. And something that we see in a bunch of the novels, especially, is the idea that when the Empire like kind of occupies a space, like they'll go out of their way to have patrols in TIE fighters just fly around, just kind of fly over villages, remind people they're still here.
Yeah,
intimidation. Like make sure they know that we're here. And I loved seeing that in these last two episodes. But yeah, man, when it comes down over the water and everything, I was just
cool.
It flies back over on that second pass, and out loud I was like, oh.
So when it made that second pass, that line from Force Awakens came out of my mouth. I was like, "Whoa, these things can really move!"
Like, God, it's so cool, man. TIE fighters are cool.
Yeah, dude.
And also there's something about the way that Tony Gilroy films Star Wars that just gives us like this really excellent like sense of scale. Like him and Gareth Edwards, like on Jeddah, you have the Star Destroyer just hanging over the holy city. In this one, like we see TIE fighters blow up all the time across Star Wars, right? But here on this point where there's just little dudes in this huge mountain, just this one lone TIE fighter is the most intimidating thing in the world, because these guys aren't Luke Skywalker, they're not Poe Dameron.
Yeah,
it's like that is massive and a huge threat, and I love the way, like, how intimidating the Empire feels for people that aren't space wizards, you know?
Right, exactly. Yeah. They're not, you know, like they have like a handful of guns and they're learning on rudimentary old Imperial equipment, like that cool camera they had.
Oh, that was so sweet too. I love that scene too, where he's like, here's the rebel code, and here's the sweet like FM like AM radio that I found. I can hear space truckers on this thing.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's not like trackable or whatever, like he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So rad. Yeah, you know that thing's gonna be important next week.
Oh
yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about this show in particular is like, you know, a lot of the times, especially with, you know, Jedi and characters like that, we see the big spectacle that Star Wars is, which we love, but this show feels so lived in and not CG and fake, and like, not that that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all, but it harkens back to classic Star Wars, where it's like, oh, that set's real. That's a real guy in a costume. That's an animatronic. That's a droid somebody built. And it's so cool.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just gonna say, like we've all been talking about how good the show looks.
Oh my gosh!
Like this is by far the best looking Disney Plus show.
That shot when like the camera's like just behind Cassidy, and he looks out and you see the Lambda shuttle like flying in, not in focus. It's just they're like, hey, someone big is arriving today, and then there goes the shuttle like right by them, and I was just like, God damn, what a fucking good looking show.
When you're shooting on location.
Yeah, man, for real. And I love the volume, and I think the technology is awesome. And I know that Obi-Wan had some struggles with the volume. I mean, I'm sure like shooting during COVID didn't help anything either, as much as I love that show. But there is something that feels real and lived in, and so I don't know, I almost know how to put this. Not normal, but almost like blue collar about this show, right? To where we're not following the Luke Skywalkers or the Finns or the Reys or any of that. Like these are us.
Boots on the ground soldiers, man.
Like this is us. This is a group of people with AK-47s, like walking around with sheets.
If we were in Star Wars and in the Rebellion as ourselves, that is probably the position we would be in.
Yeah, and even on the flip side of that, though, like most of the Empire and like are these lower level people though too. They had, only like 4 bars. Like the first 3 episodes, the antagonists were this outsourced security company. It wasn't even the Empire. It was below the Empire. And now they've come in, and these low level people are coming in and taking over this and using the hotel on Ferrix. We see
which
them,
looks so sick.
So rad. What a cool design. Ferrix is so awesome. And like they clearly like hired like the little construction dudes come and sweep up, and they're running an investigation on what the hell happened here. I do like, what did these stupid fucking space cops, like mall cops, get into while we weren't looking? But I mean, once you get into like the Imperial Security Bureau and everything, like we haven't seen a single stormtrooper, which tells me like when the stormtroopers show up in the show, they're gonna fuck shit up, right?
Yeah.
Like these are not your everyday like bumbling hitting your head on the door of stormtroopers. Like it feels like they're going out of their way to really show like the threat of what the Empire really was to everybody else.
They're gonna have the most focused aim we've ever seen.
Oh yeah, these stormtroopers ain't it does kind of like, this is finally going to give credence to like Obi-Wan's line of like only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise, right? Which the stormtroopers have kind of become a meme. They're the red shirts. They're the guys, and I don't think they're going to be that in this show, and that's really exciting. Just to see that, but
do we see them next week with the garrison that was mentioned?
I think so. Either we see them or we see them as like the response to everyone losing their payroll in the garrison. They're like, oh shit, we got to get troopers out there now. Like this has become a war issue. Like we're not just having like employees there anymore. We have to send soldiers. Yeah. Which would be really, see whether there are troopers in this garrison or not. I think it'll be, because so far it's all been like officers and flight crew in maintenance, right? Yeah. Which again is really, really interesting. It's kind of wild that we're 5 episodes in, not a single stormtrooper. But I love it. I'm so here about it. Like they're setting that up so well. This whole show has such a great job of pacing and building that I just love.
I say dropping the first 3 episodes, like I saw it was episode 5 today, and just kind of threw me off. Like it's like
we're so far in already, and yet we're next week will be the halfway point.
Yeah,
only halfway, and then we have 12 more episodes next year as well. Which
we got some good Star Wars coming up.
We got some good Star Wars, and I'm still in love with Gilroy's statement of being like, look, 24 episodes. Rogue One is the finale of the show. Like everything that happens in Andor builds to Rogue One. Cool. That's fucking awesome. I'm so here for that. It's beautiful. And we're seeing that already.
Yeah, it'd be great if the last episode of the show wasn't like oh, hey, let's wrap everything up. It would be very cool if it's like the finale is like literally go watch Rogue One.
I want the show
start or ends him on the planet where we see him in Rogue One.
I was about to say, I want the show to end with somebody telling Andor, like, yo, go meet our informant. He said something about a planet killer. like this dude has information for us about something, and that's where the show ends. And it just picks right back up in I almost said Fallen Order, in Rogue One. That'd be so cool. Another note that I have here, just kind of again while we're on the subject of the Empire, is it's really cool to see like the inner workings of the Imperial Security Bureau, like those scenes with Deidre like in her office, like talking to her assistant, like running through all these stuff. Which I have a list of all of the planets that they named and the significance of them here in a second. But those scenes also just kind of feel like watching somebody at their day job, which is so cool. Like to see like one of the most iconic, like sort of like antagonists of all time, the Empire of Star Wars, right? Just kind of like be down to like these dudes. Some of these people are just like doing their jobs, trying to climb the social ladder without like kind of thinking about the people underneath them. Like that, it makes it feel like that feels like real life fascism to me. That's beautifully done, you know.
Well, and so even the scene where Gorn is talking to that guy on like that big dam, and there's that little shred of humanity where he comes up and the guy's like leaning over the edge and he's like, hey, enjoying the view. He's like, yeah, I mean, you know how stuffy it can get in there. It's just like, oh, okay. So like these people are not like robotic evil monsters, although they are
Oh
pretty
yeah,
evil.
oh yeah, or even
But-
the scene where Gordon's talking to the people where he's like, dude, why didn't you paint this? We got officers coming in. And they're like, hey, we really wanted to see the thing. Like, is it cool if you like station us upstairs so we can watch the thing tomorrow? Like, that would be sweet.
Every 100 years or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he'd be like, all right, but you better get it done.
He's like, but this better be shining tomorrow morning. And they're like, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I love his smirk where he's like, according to. But yeah, I really like that. I thought that's cool. But I mean, yeah, there was just something about like Deidre's assistant being like, "Yo, I'm here if you are." You know, we're gonna work this out. We're doing these things, and it just makes me think of like school projects or like things I've done at work where we're like, "Nah, we're gonna finish this," and I'm like, "Yeah, that just feels like real
or
people."
Like, what was it?
Yeah.
He was like, "It's too random to seem random."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get my water because I'm gonna get into this. All right. So here's the list of planets that are mentioned. Okay, is you have Hosnian Prime, Kessel, Fondor, Jakku, Base Clay, and Steergard. Right. Here's kind of something that we know about most of these and potentially the things that they're referencing. Right.
R.I.P. Hosnian Prime.
Hosnian Prime sounds like a really, really great place to really settle down in for the next, let's say, 30 years or so.
Let's say if there's like, I don't know, a new republic.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fabulous. You know, you can really like settle down and retire there and live a long, fruitful life on Hosnian Prime. That's really great place
there's
to go
rumors of like a once in a lifetime light show that I hear is like going to be killer.
So here's what we got. So again, this is all kind of speculative, but people have like traced like rebellion events to a lot of these planets that have happened in other pieces of canon that these could potentially be referencing maybe other things. So Hosnian Prime there's a comic book arc where Han and Chewie retrieve a phalanx transmitter that's stolen from the Empire for a local crime lord of the Britons here. There goes my dog. But yeah, they steal, Han and Chewie steal an Imperial Phalanx transmitter, which maybe that's it. You know what I mean? The timeline lines up because it's post Solo. But speaking of Solo, they talk about Kessel, which of course you have the Coaxium heist and the Kessel run, which. Technically for Han, it wasn't a rebellion thing, but it is given, the Coaxium is given to Enfys Nest and her band of rebels, who explicitly say like, yo, we're starting a rebellion. like I could see like the Empire just seeing that, like not caring that it was, technically Han did it for the money, but like it went to the rebellion.
Right.
Which we do see Two Tubes as one of Enfys Nest's rebels, who later is obviously with Saw Gerrera, which is rad. They have the coolest character designs. I just want to say they look awesome. Fondor could be a reference to Shin's attack on on a Star Destroyer that happens there. That happens in a Star Wars Adventures comic, which is or is not canon. You know, it's a kid's story. But potentially, you know, they attack a Star Destroyer on a planet that's mentioned there, so could be. Jakku, they mentioned targeting consoles were stolen and destroyed there. That's kind of the first time, timeline wise, that Jakku was sort of brought up here. We do know that there from specifically Star Wars Aftermath that there was an Imperial hideout there in Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's mentioned that there is an Imperial base there where the Emperor was kind of like performing experiments and stuff that we know like later leads on to the things that happen in the Rise of Skywalker, right? So there's an Imperial presence on Jakku, so it's not wild to think that something happens there. Base Clay that's the first time I think this place has ever been mentioned. I don't know if Base Clay is a planet or a base. Hard to tell with Star Wars, but they do mention proton warheads being stolen, which obviously proton torpedoes could be fueling up some X-wings, you know what I mean? Maybe to blow up like a space station or something.
Maybe we'll see.
Who knows? You know, it's impossible to say. And then Steergard, of course, is where the NS9 Starpath is stolen by Cassian Andor. So it does kind of lead credence to like the idea is like it's too random to be random. Like something's going on. They are kind of random, but it's all these like sort of separated cells of the rebellion, but we're not at the rebel alliance yet. These are just dudes kind of out there rebelling.
Little factions,
yeah.
Something that I always
there's fermenting out there, sir.
Yeah, I mean that's something I always thought was cool. Like just shouting out to one of our favorite pieces of Star Wars content, Rebels. Is like that was like for me the first time I heard that like there's always all these smaller sects of rebels or rebellions out there. So like,
which is all happening around the same time as Andor.
Oh yeah.
By the way, timeline wise, they're pretty close to each other. I'm hoping we see Hera or something in the show. That'd be really fucking cool if we see Hera like season 2.
Pretty badass.
Because they name dropped General Syndulla in Rogue One.
Yep.
Let me see here. Lambda shot was pretty is another one of my notes. I wrote stacks on stacks when I saw the payroll. I was like,
the money.
Yeah.
So I had forgotten that they were planning on stealing money, and I was like, what is that? And for a split second, I was like, oh, is that coaxium from Solo? But no, it's not.
It's Republic credit or Imperial credits.
Yeah,
baby.
yeah, they're stealing like the payroll or whatever.
Yeah, they're stealing the payroll of the garrison.
I have a line from earlier. I don't remember exactly where it was. I think it was maybe when they were like all around like the campfire at night or something like that. But somebody said, in the Imperial thought machine, it's easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident.
Yes,
and I was like, damn.
Nemix. I think that was
that was Nemix, and I think that was a scene where he was going over like the cool like scanner that he's got, and he pulls out like his notebook where he's writing their manifesto. Yeah. And it goes on like this whole like political diatribe, which I love. That was so cool because again, like this whole episode was really just kind of like about focusing on like what the motivation of these people are and how cool that was. I loved the scene of the guy like talking about his brother and Cassian like finally breaking down and be like, look, I'm here because I got paid. I'm not here for the cause. And he's like, but if I'm gonna do this, we're gonna do this so we live. That whole scene where they're talking about the train, and he's like,
is it on a rail?
You didn't have the plan to get it off the track, and they're like,
it's a good thing.
And he's like, no, you gotta fucking know. Like, is this thing on the rail? And they're like, hey, how do you get it off? And he's like, it's like this. You guys didn't know that? Like,
you guys don't know how to check the weight?
Yeah. That scene was incredible.
Why isn't it in the manual? It's an add-on.
I say,
it's a good thing I'm here. Otherwise, you guys would have never figured this out. Well, we would have figured it out. It would have just been a lot louder, and it would have been more dangerous. Well, thank God I'm here.
And so I love that.
I'm the pilot now.
He's like, no, you're not doing this. It's my ass on the line. I'm getting us out of here.
Yeah, his exact line is, because it sounded like a good, that's what she said. He said, if it's my ass on the line, I'm pulling this thing out of there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, bet. But yeah, I love that sort of the breaking down of us getting like the why of why Cassian is here. Though right, like why Luthen went after him. It going into last week's episode, I was like, why would he pick out Cassian? Like, what is it about Cassian that Luthen's going for that he's like, no, I gotta have you on this team, to where he like throws him on last minute. And finally, this episode, it all clicked to where I was like, dude's made a living like stealing from the Empire, and this is a group of people. He's put together a group of people that are about to go steal the payroll out of a garrison. He's gonna go. He learned about somebody that has stolen from the Empire and lived, and now he's like, okay, go show these people how it's done. Like, it's like, you can do it.
More people need to know what you know.
Yeah. Which again, just this episode, I think back to episode 2, to when Luthen and Cassian are there with the Starpath unit, and he's like, "How'd you get it? What is it you did? Like, how'd you do that?" He's like, "I'll give you another 2,000 credits." And Cassian's like, "Whatever." And he goes, "Done. Tell me how." like it's all been so cool. Like everything about the show just stacks so well. Like the whole idea that like those first 3 episodes are all just kind of like the
jumping off point.
Like almost the consequences of something that happens in the first scene of the show, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the position that Cassian's in is because of the choices that he makes in the first episode, and then it just goes from there. And
it was his butterfly effect moment.
So cool. So cool.
Speaking of Luthen, I guess, I don't know if you had anything else to say, but just the whole point of now that Cassian has told them all that he's getting paid, and like it's like and Luthen was literally like, oh, there's only 2 people that know. It's Cassian and Vel.
Yeah.
But now they all know.
Now all of them know.
Which, yeah, I'm curious as to how that might affect the group going in, but I do also love that it's sort of like breaking down of Cassian's wall a little bit to where he's like, you know what, fine.
Right.
Like I love his line of his like, I need to be able to trust you if we're going to be able to do this. So here's this information that you were looking for. Like I really like that. That was super cool. And yeah, I think it does kind of, that is sort of like the first hint that we see of like the Cassian that we know from Rogue One later, right? To him being like, yo, I've done some shit.
Yeah, he told them everything except for his name.
Except for his name.
Yep.
Also the scene where like the dude has like the knife on him and he's like he has this and he calls it Sky Kyber. I was like,
Kyber, yeah.
That's such a cool sentence.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up too, because I was like, I've never heard the term Sky Kyber before, and so I'm trying to figure out what that is, because I mean, we hear a lot about Kyber with on like being on Jedha, right? It's how the Jedi power their lightsabers. It's what they use to focus the laser of the Death Star. It's actually worth a lot of money just because it's so involved with the Jedi, right? But I'm curious as to what a Sky Kyber would mean or what that.
Yeah.
And he was saying 30,000 credits.
Yeah. Worth lots of money. And so he's like, "Why are you here if this thing's worth so much money?"
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, I'm being paid."
Yeah, love that. So cool. What are my last few notes here? I think that's kind of it. I did make a note, just kind of like help place this in the timeline of again just having all these different like rebel cells and stuff. As you mentioned, we have like the Ghost crew. You got Saw Gerrera out doing his own thing, and he was name dropped in like I believe last week's episode. Like Vel mentions him real fast, so they know each other. And then of course you have Infus Nest still running around somewhere as well.
Yeah, and at this point in the timeline, it's 5 BBY. So Jyn Erso would be 16, which
with Saw Gerrera.
She would either just be with Saw Gerrera or had just been abandoned by Saw Gerrera. So we'll ultimately see. I don't think she's going to show up. I think they'll probably be like, "Oh, we just did a mission here," and then that'll be like the place where she was left behind.
I think they place this at exactly the points where Jyn will not show up in the show. So that way, because she's introduced in Rogue One. Like I don't think we need that. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of her story there.
Maybe as we get closer, we can hear like a story of like something that happened somewhere that could be like, oh, that was Jyn. But like we don't need to see her because they don't meet until Rogue One anyway.
I think it probably wouldn't be until like season 2, once the events of the show are a little closer.
Yeah, of course.
That we start getting those threads built together. I wouldn't be surprised like if Orson Krennic shows up at some point, because he works. He's got the white uniform. He works in the fucking the Imperial Security Bureau.
Right,
like we're seeing other people with an ISB, and oh my god, I just give me more Ben Mendelsohn, man. Even just like a one-off thing, have him show up. He's like, I got to go do my other thing. I'm building something. See you later. Just something like that I think would be cool. But or I mean, if the rebellion like grows to a point that's so large that you got to get like the bigwigs starting to step in, and Krennic's like, what the fuck have you guys been doing? Like, do I need to step in and take over this? I got this thing, Yeah. It's really interesting, and I think there's a lot of great directions. But that was, I think, another really, really great, meaty, fun, super fun episode. I'm so excited to see this heist that's happening next week. I'm excited to see this cool like meteor shower event that's going on, and the spectacle I think is just going to be really, really neat. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on this week again, man. I really, really appreciate you. We definitely got to get you back on more often to talk Star Wars, because this is a lot of fun. Yeah, man. I love talking Star Wars. I love you guys. I love talking Star Wars with you guys. So it's always a pleasure. I love this. I love this. It's all of it's good. Everything's good. Alec, thank you for running such a tight ship, but we got to get going. So thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you again. Hit the subscribe button. Go watch our other stuff. We make a lot of things, and we'll see you at the next Waypoint.